Hello, and welcome to another Jamesy Tech YouTube video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over 10 free Security Plus practice questions to get you ready for your Security Plus exam. These 10 practice questions are coming from techexam.pro, a website that I created to help people get ready for their certification exams. So if you guys want to check it out and get more practice questions up to 100 for the Security Plus or any other certification, check it out. Link in the description down below. It'd be greatly appreciated. And if you guys are new, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you guys do enjoy. And if you guys want to join the Discord server full of people trying to get certified, get into IT, join the Discord at jamesy.tech/discord or linked down below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the practice questions. All right, question 1. Which cryptographic algorithm is considered asymmetric? AES, 3DES, Blowfish, or RSA? So this question is kind of hard to explain. This unfortunately is just knowing the different algorithms for the Security Plus. So the first three, AES, 3DES, which is an extension of DES, and Blowfish, these are all symmetric algorithms, meaning they use the same key to encrypt and to unencrypt, while RSA uses a secure key exchange to encrypt and unencrypt data. It has a private key and a public key to encrypt data. So that will be the correct answer of question 1. What does the principle of least privilege entail? Administrators have unlimited access. Users have minimal permissions necessary. Permissions are assigned randomly, or access is granted to all resources. So the question is least amount of privilege. With CompTIA, you usually want to find the extremes, or the most, the least. So we have the least privilege here. So we don't want unlimited access. Users should have minimal permissions necessary. That's a good answer. Permissions are assigned randomly. That doesn't necessarily mean it's least privilege. So I'd probably count that answer out. And then access is granted to all resources, which is definitely not least privilege. The least amount of privilege is doing whatever is necessary, only giving the amount of privileges to do whatever your job function is. So the answer is users should have minimal permissions necessary. Which type of malware disguises itself as legitimate software? We have Trojan horse, we have worm, we have a rootkit, and we have a virus. So these are all different kinds of malware. Trojan horse, if you guys have heard of the ancient story about a Trojan horse, essentially what it means is this disguising yourself as something you're not. So the right answer would be Trojan horse. A worm is something that replicates itself throughout a network, and it doesn't really disguise itself as legitimate software. A rootkit hides its presence on a system to maintain unauthorized access. So that's usually getting root privilege. And a Trojan horse can fit under a virus. The word virus would be, in my opinion, too broad to say disguising itself, as Trojan horse is directly correlates with disguising itself. So the correct answer would be Trojan horse. What is the main purpose of a honeypot in cybersecurity? To filter network traffic, to monitor employee activity, protect data with encryption, or attract attackers to gain intelligence? Let's go through the answers. To filter network traffic, that is mostly done by firewalls by using ACL rules, access control lists. Firewalls will allow and unallow certain IP ranges or IP addresses to access certain networks or certain applications. So that's something that a firewall does, not a honeypot. A honeypot is not used to monitor employee activity. That might be done with some application on your desktop, but honeypot does not monitor employee activity. While encryption does protect data, the purpose of a honeypot is not to protect data. What it really is meant to do is it's supposed to be a decoy for attackers. Essentially, you might open up a specific application to attract attackers, to essentially gain intelligence on how they might attack, who it might be, where it might be coming from. So a honeypot is essentially a trap for attackers, and so that would be the correct answer. Which port number is commonly used for HTTPS traffic? 443, 3389, port 80, or port 22? Now, this is a pretty straightforward question. If you took the Network Plus, you might already know this. If you're studying for the Security Plus, this is pretty important to know is basic port numbers for traffic. You will need to identify certain network traffic, things like that. So port 443 is HTTPS. Port 3389 is remote desktop. That's RDP. Port 80 is HTTP, which is the unsecure version of HTTPS. And port 22 is SSH. So the correct answer is 443. What does CIA stand for in the context of information security? Confidentiality, integrity, availability, Central Intelligence Agency, Certified Internal Auditor, or confidentiality, identification, and authentication? So we can knock out two here pretty easily. The Central Intelligence Agency, that is a government agency. That doesn't have to do with cybersecurity. We have Certified Internal Auditor. That's also unrelated to cybersecurity. But you have these two right here: confidentiality, integrity, availability, or identification and authentication. So the confidentiality remains the same. Now this is talking about security. So confidentiality, which is making sure that data is encrypted, that certain people can't see certain data if they're not allowed to. That's like access controls, things like that. Now, integrity is ensuring when data is in travel or at rest that it doesn't get modified without correct access. And then availability essentially means that all this data can be accessed whenever is necessary and it is never down. Not gonna lie, this CIA term right here kind of reminds me of the AAA triad from networking, which is authentication, authorization, and accounting. So that kind of reminds me of this, but the correct answer for the CIA triad is confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Which of the following is a multi-factor authentication method? Smart card and a PIN, password and a PIN, password and a security question, or fingerprint and a retina scan? So multi-factor authentication means using two different types of authentication to authenticate. So essentially, a password is something you know, a smart card is something you have, a fingerprint is something you are, because that's, your fingerprint, you are your fingerprint. So essentially, when you do multi-factor authentication, you want to combine two different categories of those. You don't want to use two things that you know, for example, your password and a PIN, because that is not multi-factor. That is simply using the same type of authentication. However, let's say you do a password and you do your fingerprint. That would be two factors. You're using something that you know and something that you have, which is your fingerprint. So in this scenario, password and a PIN would not work because those are two things that something you know. Password and a security question would be the same exact thing. A fingerprint and a retina scan might be a good answer in some people's eyes, but this is something you are. Both of these are something you are. So that would not be multi-factor. That would be single factor. So the right answer is smart card, which is a physical card, and a PIN, which is something you know. So this is something you have. This is something you know. Question 8. What is a zero-day vulnerability? A vulnerability with a known fix, a vulnerability that only affects outdated systems, a vulnerability that is exploited before being known, or a vulnerability that is publicly known. So when you think 0 day, you think patient zero, the first person to get a virus, certain things like that. So essentially it means it is very new and it is a unknown thing. So a vulnerability with a known fix, that would just be a vulnerability. In my opinion, that would not be a 0 day vulnerability. A vulnerability that only affects outdated systems. That would also not be correct because 0 day means that it just came out. 0 day means it just started. A vulnerability that is exploited before being known. That's a good answer because 0 day means that nobody knows about it, but it is a vulnerability that is being attacked. And then the last one is a vulnerability that is publicly known. Typically, 0 days are not known by the manufacturer of the product. For example, if a software has a 0 day, it gets exploited before the producers of the software find out. That's essentially what happens. So the correct answer would be a vulnerability that is exploited before being known. Question 9. Which security protocol is used to secure email communications? SSH, S/MIME, SSL, or TLS? So we have SSH here, which that is used for secure shell access, usually for consoles, things like that. That's not really meant for email communication, so that would not be the correct answer. S/MIME provides encryption for digital signatures for email communications, so that would be securing email communications. SSL is securing web-specific traffic, not email traffic. And TLS is a general encryption protocol, which is used sometimes with email, but it's not specifically designed for email, which SMIME is designed for secure email communication. So that is the correct answer. Question 10. Which of the following are considered social engineering attacks? Select 2. Let's go through all the answers. Brute force, Smurf attack, SQL injection, DNS poisoning, vishing, and phishing. So a brute force attack is a technical style attack which guesses passwords, which essentially trying to brute force its way into a system. Social engineering has to do with humans and human communication. And exploiting human communication. So this is a technical aspect in exploiting a computer system. So it wouldn't be a social engineering tactic. Then we have a Smurf attack, which is a denial of service type of attack, which once again is a technical style of attack. So that would not be social engineering. Then we have SQL injection, which exploits vulnerabilities in SQL databases, sometimes done through web pages, things like that, which is once again a technical exploit. Then we have DNS poisoning, which is a technical attack that alters DNS records, which may redirect you to certain pages that may be malicious. So that would also be a technical type of attack. Now, vishing is let's talk about phishing first. Phishing is deceiving users using fake emails, websites, or some sort of way to kind of farm information out of them or steal credentials. Now, that would be a social engineering tactic. Now, vishing is essentially phishing, but using a voice communication, like a phone call. For example, you get a phone call saying, your computer has a virus, I want to remote in. That would be a social engineering attack. So yeah, uses voices to trick individuals, things like that, which may allow you to reveal sensitive information, may give out your credit card info, your password, things like that. So those are social engineering attacks, and those should be the correct answer. And we got a 10 out of 10 because we are very smart. And as you can see, there are 10 total quizzes for the Security Plus. We just went through quiz 1. So if you guys are interested in that, like I said, the website is techexam.pro. I'm going to be adding more questions here in the future. Yeah, once again, thank you guys for watching this video. If those helped you out, make sure to like the video and subscribe. I will be making more videos on practice questions here in the future. Thank you guys for watching. This is James E Tech, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.